Welcome to Mattowarrior's Metal Madness. I believe this is the 14th or 15th episode. I can't even keep track. You know, you get to a certain age and you're just like, time doesn't really pass the same way as it did when you're younger. But I have the added bonus to have like time pass weird even when I was younger. It was like I was an old man when I was a kid. Like I felt like just like things just went so fast. It was really weird. But anyways, it's not about this episode. It's not about that weird sense of time. So today we're going to be talking about 90's Iron Maiden with a very special guest, my friend Bob. And I think we talked for about an hour about that. And there's a lot of opinions that people have about that era, and we kind of go into a lot of that. It's very interesting in my opinion because it's just a fascinating subject to talk about. Because as anybody knows, I do like to talk about the 90's a lot because it was a weird period for metal. So this is like the dark ages. It's like the Great Depression for metal, basically. Even if you want to say like, oh no, well, there were so many bands I like. I don't care what people think about metal back then. If you lived at all in the 90's and you were like cognizant of metal, like you would understand why it's such a fascinating subject. So this is kind of an extrapolation on that with the band Iron Maiden. But anyways, I'm going to go to the new segment because I have not done that in a while. Keep in mind, if this gets released sometime this week, this is July 26th, 2022. So here we go. I saw an interview with Michael Romeo the other day that he was implying that South America was more. He was implying that it was more lax down there for touring, but I'm not completely sure. This is interesting. Oh, okay. So there's some speculation that he didn't take didn't do a certain medical procedure that is very controversial on different sides right now. Billy Sheehan. Okay. So this is all right. I'm not going to go into too much of this. You can go to my YouTube channel and my other stuff that I do where I talk about some of this stuff because I do not want to mix this subject into conversation. That said, I'm just going to put it this way. How long, will this stuff go on? Like you can use your own imagination from how I said that. How long are they going to do that, do these types of things? How long? Like it's one thing, it's one thing if you support it or you don't support it. It's just a rhetorical question. How long are we going to be doing this kind of stuff? How long are you going to require this to go on tour at this country? Like I know, yeah, people have the argument, blah blah blah. I've heard it all before, but this is something new. And testing for things all the time is something new too. How long is that going to last? That's a rhetorical question. It's a legitimate question. I have a nephew that's in a semi-famous band, and I'm not going to say what band that is, but he wonders the same thing without outing who that is. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like okay, well, you can say at the end of the day, okay, I supported all these measures and stuff, but there's got to be a certain point that we can go back to at least a semblance of what we were doing before with touring at different countries and people that are doing different things. I'm just putting it that way. I'm just putting that out there. What is the end result of this? Where do we want to go? Do we want to keep doing this? Because people are not gonna, they're gonna stick to their guns, especially if you're into Scientology. If you're into something like that, or any kind of religion that, I don't think it forbids that certain procedure. Just in this situation, I guess he chose not to do this because there's a picture of him doing the procedure for other things in the past. See, that's why people need to stop saying that someone's anti this if they are just against this one thing of that is the thing that they're talking about. But I'm not going to go into that. Speaking of that, Dead 90's frontman Glenn Hughes tests positive for something. Temporary replacement announced. Wow, I thought he was like the singer. I guess maybe he's one of the singers. Former suicidal tendencies bassist Bob Heathcote dead at 58 from a motorcycle accident. It's pretty sad. How I Laugh Tomorrow, and I Can't Even Smile Today. I grew up with that album, so it is sad. Chris Jericho says life-threatening pulmonary embolism caused cancellation of Fozzy shows in UK last December. Okay. Cro-Mag's frontman blasts former bandmates, says he was respected during his stay at Rikers Island. Rikers Island. God. They're tough, these hardcore guys, man. They're hardcore. Sorry, I can't help it. Watch Joe Perry and Gary Cherone perform Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin classes in Atlantic City. He's dressed a little like Johnny Depp in that picture. That's interesting. Pantera bassist the Rex Brown Experience performs at Gibson Garage Fest. Is he playing guitar? I think he is. Pearl Jam, I think I'm going to cut it off here after this one. Let's see if there's any more headlines that are interesting. Maybe. I'll skip ahead after this one because this actually goes back to an earlier episode too. This subject kind of goes back. So I'm going to skip all these other headlines and go down. Pearl Jam cancels first Amsterdam concert over Eddie Vedder's vocal issues. Well, color me not caring about that. In fact, I don't know. I'm so sick of Eddie Vedder's like comments about stuff and just like the self-righteousness like lately it really turns me off. And it's funny because like Motley Crue is not a band of like rocket scientists or anything like that. But they've really come to be like a huge, I mean this huge stadium tour is like one of the biggest tours right now with Poison, Motley Crue, and Def Leppard, and Joan Jett. And what's funny is that, I thought like Eddie Vedder and his ilk were supposed to kill all that stuff forever. It would never come back. It'd be so unfashionable in the future. But here we go. We have the stadium tour, and I doubt Pearl Jam is playing stadiums at this point. It's like, it's just kind of one of those ironies. There was a meme the other day about the big four, like this is the big four of thrash, and then it was it was really tasteless. This is a gathering of the big four of thrash. This is a gathering of the big four of grunge, and it was in a graveyard. It's so cruel and it's terrible, but it's just like, my God, it's just it's so messed up. So I don't know. I mean, people just stop. I think people need to just like calm down on the drugs, except for Motley Crue because they seem to survive everything. No, I'm just kidding. But all right, I'm gonna skip over that Slash thing. I like some grunge, I should say too. I like a lot of it. When it came out, I liked it. I just didn't like how it was ubiquitous. Like that was the only thing you could like anymore. That was the only thing I didn't like. Let's see. Pop star Demi Lovato wears Voivod shirt. Well, that's cool. Does she like Voivod? I hope she does. I think she does because she is playing like harder rock, I guess, in this new project. So, because a lot of these pop stars, male and female, just in case someone accuses me of being sexist, like, oh, like that stupid meme, the guy that says name 5 bands. It's on, it's on all the social media. Like, is this like really creepy looking guy like is like accosting this girl like wearing a shirt? I don't mean that by like a gender thing. It's just like you see Kanye West wearing like black metal shirts and stuff. You've seen all this stuff before, and it has nothing to do with that. I'm just putting that out there. Ted Nugent, I'm not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because of my politics. I don't know if that's true or not, but should he be? I mean, I think he should if these other people are, but like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame sucks anyways. Why do you want to go in there? Why the hell does anybody want to go in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Let's see. There was one headline I can't find. Where is that? I was going to talk about the Pantera thing, but maybe I'll wait till the next episode because I have my own opinions about that. That might take a little too much time. Okay, this will be the last headline I read. Hanoi Rocks guitarist Andy McCoy calls Nikki Sixx a liar, says Motley Crue are fucking ripoffs for coming out of retirement. Now they are, yeah. Absolutely. They lied. It was a publicity stunt in the beginning, and then they did that Dirt movie, which is a guilty pleasure. It's so bad it's good. I liked Machine Gun Kelly's role as Tommy Lee. I thought was actually really good. Ironically enough, I can't believe I liked it that much, but it was actually really good. I mean, his acting as Tommy Lee. Maybe the rest of the movie was so bad that was just like the only good thing. I don't know. They got Doc McGee totally wrong. The guy that played Doc McGee just did not look like him, and Vince Neil didn't really look. He looked sort of similar. And the rest of them looked okay, but Machine Gun Kelly nailed the vibe. There's no doubt. I don't even know what Machine Gun Kelly is. It's like a rap. Is he like a rapper or some guy with a facial tattoo? I'm so out of it, but about that stuff. But like, no, he did such a good job as Tommy Lee. Like I think he could be an actor. Like he just got his like nuances there. It was similar to. Mentioned Joan Jett before, Kristen Stewart and Joan Jett, because she did really good in that Runaways movie. Like, I don't think the Runaways movie was that great, but she did a great job as Joan Jett. Like, she could totally nail it. So I think that's about all for that segment, and I will get to this it's really a discussion, not an interview, so it'll be something of a change. I might actually introduce this segment in the future because it seems to be very just fun to do and people like it and stuff, so I'm just going to get to it. So today we have a special guest to Mattowarrior's Metal Madness. His name is Bob, and he's been a friend for, gosh, has it been like almost 40 years, right?
Yeah.
30 years or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, going on 40.
Jesus Christ, I'm old. I guess I don't really care about that, but I mean, I don't know about age stuff, but it's been a long time. So I guess today we're going to have a interesting subject. We're going to talk about 90s Iron Maiden and just what our opinions on that time frame are and the context of what was going on at the time and all that. So I guess one of the questions I have is, of course I know this, but the audience does not. So how did you get into Iron Maiden?
Oh boy, Iron Maiden. I got into Iron Maiden when I was 9, and it was one of those names that I heard out and about, and it wasn't until seeing like the album cover, that just spoke to me, because I was familiar with like the music on the radio, and I guess I was okay with it. But this, visually, that was just right up my alley, since it was like I was into things like horror stuff and sci-fi stuff, and I hadn't seen an album cover like that. The newest album at the time was Seventh Son, but the album I ended up getting was Somewhere in Time. I did like the cover a little more, so I begged my mother to buy me that cassette tape. And, of course, after that, I had to get everything they ever did.
Oh yeah. So what did you think about them at the time? Like, what was the what did you what were your thoughts of
You
Iron
know,
Maiden?
it was a real awakening, but I was really taken aback by it because up until that point, I mean, I'm 9 years old. The only thing I know about heavy metal is that, I had just gotten into Metallica, right? So I knew what Injustice for All and Master of Puppets sounded like. And I guess for some reason, I figured all heavy metal would sound like that. And I remember sitting down with a Walkman and listening to it in the living room and just, seconds into it being like, this is totally different. This is nothing like Metallica. And then when the vocals started, I'm like, that's even weirder. I didn't think it would sound like this. But, after Alexander the Great was done, I just started it back up and listened to the entire thing again. It was just amazing to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my whole thing was, obviously I've told the story numerous times to numerous people, but I'm not on this podcast, I don't think. A little bit I've got into it a little bit. But yeah, my brother, I had a divorced parents, and I go see my dad on the weekend on Saturdays usually, and my brother was living, because he actually lived in a foster home, and then he moved back for a while when he was like 16, 17, and he lived with my father for a while, or was he living there full time? I think he was. So his birthday in 1989, and for his birthday he got Live After Death, the video cassette. So sometimes he would be going out to the bowling alley or whatever he was doing. He was quite a guy, as you know.
Yeah.
And he would go out, the bowling alley to do, whatever, or go, hang out with whoever. And I was stuck there by myself, and it was like late at, it wasn't that late at night, but it was like that tape was in the VCR. So I started watching it, and I was like, I didn't know what to think, but it was like something it clicked with me, So one of the things was that there was controversy in the family, because some certain people in the family thought, at that point, a lot of metalheads were kind of a little more on the delinquent side, in the 80s and stuff, of course.
Yeah.
But what happened was, I started to like it, and then we went on spring break, I went with the other side of my family to Texas on a trip, and I begged my mother to buy me an Iron Maiden tape. I almost bought Number of the Beast, which I'm glad I didn't, because I don't know if it would have. I think buying Live After Death was a pretty fateful. We went to, I think it was a Target instead of a Walmart, because we went to Walmart, it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. They had Live After Death at the Target, so I was like, yeah. And I listened to my cousin's pink Walkman. She let me listen to stuff, and I pretty much wore out the Walkman on that trip. So that's
So Live After Death was the first tape you got? For some reason, I thought it was also Somewhere in Time for some reason.
Oh, no. Somewhere in Time, I actually bought that summer at Rose Records downtown. It was a cutout for some reason, because metal obviously was not as hip in this town, so I think they put it in a cutout bin for whatever reason.
Well, I remember that VHS tape.
Oh, yeah.
I remember watching that VHS tape with you, and that was cool because that was the first time I'd ever seen them outside of the album, the band photo inside the album. It was neat to see that they had this elaborate stage thing.
Oh, yeah, it just won me over. I was like, the thing was, I wanted to grow up and become an inventor or scientist at the time. And then I was like, no, I want to become a musician.
Yeah.
It like changed my life completely. Like that spring and that summer, I was like, no, I want to like play music. That's what I want to do. So that was kind of like the impetus for that, because I was like, I'm going to invent a time machine, or whatever. But I was like 10, I was 10 turning 11. So at that point. So when did you sense that like, this is kind of a weird question, but I think it kind of sets it up for the next segment, of course. Not a weird question. Never mind. When did you sense that things were changing in the music scene in the late '80s? Like, what was the impetus that things that you saw things were like kind of going a different direction?
Like when the '90s hit, that was a little weird for me because, I mean, looking back, I knew that things were changing, but at the time, I guess I knew they were, but it didn't really affect me. Like, I got into the '90s stuff, I bought Nevermind, I'm not going to brag. I bought it before it was a huge hit, but I mean, I got a lot of those, but with the metal stuff, I didn't toss that to the side. I just kind of incorporated the grunge stuff along with it. Like, even though I would get, say, a Soundgarden album, if Overkill put out a new album, I would get that, But I would have to say I noticed things were changing probably around the Nirvana time, because there was a little area right before them where it's like this, even in the early '90s, where the rock thing was still going strong,
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, even Queen all of a sudden comes out of nowhere and has a #1 hit with like this song they did in the '70s. So yeah, I think I noticed Nirvana when they premiered like on Headbangers Ball, and Pearl Jam, their video premiered on Headbangers Ball. I could tell there was a different sound going on.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I started to notice things. Well, this is going to sound this is kind of be interesting, because in 1990, even like 1989, there were a lot of bands like, I don't know if you remember Lynch Mob with George Lynch.
Yeah.
Badlands with Jakey Lee.
Yes.
Blue Murder with John Sykes, but that's kind of separate a little bit. But like, there was kind of a push to like take off the makeup and be more bluesy for a while.
Yeah.
And that kind of started to happen like around 88, 89. And then what happened, I know it's my brother, goes back to my brother. He was dating this woman that was into like the Pogues and like Jane's Addiction, or was it Jane's Addiction? Red Hot Chili Peppers. Mm-hmm. Like, I like some of this more sophisticated rock now, or something, he said. I was like, oh, great, okay. But there was definitely a change happening. It was kind of a weird moment just to like hear that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of annoying, of course. Like, later on, looking back, I'm like, it just became so inundated with all that stuff. I think pendulum went too far, in my opinion. But
yeah, it did, for sure.
So what did you think of like, let's go to No Prayer for the Dying, when that came out? What did you think about the album? What, as far as a change from Seventh Son and everything?
Yeah, I guess. It's easy to see now. When I was a kid, it was a little more. I mean, to me, it still sounded like Iron Maiden, even though I know that in retrospect, it does sound different. But to me, it's like I first heard it. I borrowed your cassette tape.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first time I heard it. I listened to it, and I liked it, and for some reason didn't get back to it for a little while. And I bought it again and liked it, but didn't love it. Whereas every album I heard before that, I loved every single song off of it. And that was the first one where I didn't love every song, but I liked most of it, damn near all of it. But yeah, and that it was hard to put a finger on. I got this weird theory about why that turned out the way it did, but I mean, I don't have any credentials other than being an Iron Maiden fan,
Oh yeah. Well, what do you think about that?
It just seems like, they were behind the 8 ball right off the bat. They had lost such a crucial member.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all the members are crucial. It doesn't matter which member they would lose, they would feel it. because it was, it's such a grand band that losing any member would have an effect. But they lost like half of this legendary guitar team. And so they already got that going for them. And then, hell, at that point, they'd put out, 7 albums, which are considered classics. I mean, I'm sure each album has its detractors, but they're all considered classics in general. And it's like, that's a hell of a track record, and also like what's considered one of the greatest live albums of all time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you're not going to knock it out of the park every time. I mean, you're going to come up short at some point. And I mean, they had a hell of a run before they did.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I heard or I read like No Prayer for the Dying. The idea was for it to be like a back to basics kind of thing. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think they tried to strip things down a little bit. Like the live show was very stripped down. Like they didn't have any. I don't think they had any. Well, they had Eddie and stuff, but it wasn't like anything like the other one. Jeans and t-shirts and leather, a little bit of leather. The what they wore and stuff. And I think that was a very 90s thing. That's my thought.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, we can't be like too over the top in our live performance anymore. It's like, it's not cool anymore. I don't know if that was a conscious thought, but they definitely were. I don't think they were following the trend necessarily. It just kind of came to them,
Yeah. And maybe the fans didn't want that after what Seventh Son had become. Maybe they wanted another step, beyond that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was, I mean, I guess it could be cost too, but I think they went for that. But I really enjoy No Prayer for the Dying. I think it's probably in my top, I don't know, 6 or 7 probably now. I really enjoy it. I personally enjoy it more than Fear of the Dark, but we'll get to that too, of course. But
well, like all their kind of unholy 4 albums from the 90s, I think it's just really unfairly crapped on.
Oh, yeah.
And Yannick has always been, kind of the guy nobody really ever accepted, at least in America. I'm assuming in other countries they love him. It just seems like people don't like him here.
He is kind of a different kind of style. It's very Richie Blackmore, but like really a little more outrageous in a certain way. It's kind of it tends to get a little out of control sometimes, but I do like him. But obviously, the loss was felt at the time. I think I bought that album. I think I didn't get Fear of the Dark until like 93 or 4. I think I waited a couple years. I think it was 94 actually.
You see, and I can understand from like someone like you, you like with Maiden, you've always been able to listen to the albums and who's doing what solo. And a lot of people like who are guitar players probably noticed a huge difference right away. With someone like me, it sounded enough like Iron Maiden. I didn't really notice a huge. There's a whole different player there. I knew there was, but as I get older, I can actually hear. Not even being a guitar player, I can actually kind of hear the difference now.
Oh yeah, it's definitely there. So yeah, that's kind of how I saw it. I think No Prayer for the Dying I really liked when it came out. Well, I didn't buy it when it came out either. I think it was like late 1990 I got it, or early 91. And then I waited for some reason. I think I had interest in other stuff, for a while. And then I waited until like 94, maybe 95 to get Fear of the Dark. So I guess we can go to that. What are your thoughts on Fear of the Dark?
Yeah, I love Fear of the Dark. I know universally it's looked at as like an album of mostly filler, except for the title track. This is in a time when CDs are now really the main medium people are using. So that was probably, that was up to that point the longest of their albums. I think it's just shy of an hour. It's like 57 minutes or something. And so a lot of people say it has a lot of filler on it. I guess I don't know. I guess I won't argue with him, but I did get it when it came out. So I suppose I look at it with the rose tinted glasses because I was a kid and I loved every song on it then. If I were to hear it for the first time now, would I feel the same way? I don't know. But I really love it.
Yeah, to me, it hasn't aged as well for me as No Prayer for the Dying. I don't know why, because back then I probably preferred Fear of the Dark, but I think they were, because of the CD thing, as you said, like CDs had caught on, so a lot of bands were just trying to stuff everything onto a CD, like just do all sorts of songs and stuff. So I mean, you even had 9 Inch Nails, quote unquote, singles would be an hour. They would, because of all these mixes and all this crap, which some of them are actually really good, but I don't mean it's crap, but yeah, the Iron Maiden, like the Fear of the Dark era, that was an interesting era, but yeah, that was kind of where I was kind of like stepping out a little bit until at least the mid 90s. I don't know what exactly was the impetus for me buying that. I think I bought like the double CD thing, though. I think that was a really good marketing move by the band to do those double CDs. And then I was also learning guitar at the time too, so I went back and listened to more Maiden again. So I think I was listening to like Soundgarden and Napalm Death, Alice in Chains, and what else? I don't know.
I remember playing for friends or for people, always playing the song "The Fugitive." I mean, it's funny because that was never a single. It was never it's probably considered one of the filler songs, but it's always like the one I'd play for people. I'm like, isn't this awesome? But no one talks about that song.
I think it's a cool song. I think it is where so those albums are kind of where they started, or even Seven Son, where they started repeating choruses a lot, but it still wasn't like terrible by then. It wasn't like as bad.
Yeah, I didn't mind the repeating of choruses as long as it wasn't. I guess as long as it fit or it wasn't annoying, like Afraid to Shoot Strangers. I mean, I think that's all he says for like 2 minutes.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
when you think about it, he says it over and over, but to me, it never got annoying, though. It seemed to kind of just be part of the rhythm, almost.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Of that song.
That was
one. But yeah, you start seeing more of that. Yeah,
that was one of the first songs I played guitar to too. Like when I got a real electric guitar. But yeah, I mean, I loved the or one that didn't break. I mean, anyways. So yeah, I mean, as far as the songs on Fear of the Dark, I Weekend Warrior and yeah, Apparition, I like it, but Weekend Warrior is probably, I could do without Weekend Warrior, honestly, but I don't skip it necessarily, but I just think it's just unnecessary. It's like a Dickinson Tattooed Millionaire kind of track to me, just like Bring Your Daughter.
Right. I've always told people I like the song Weekend Warrior, but I also recognize it kind of belongs somewhere else. You know what I mean? Yeah, it doesn't seem like it should be on an Iron Maiden album, but I do like it in its own way.
Yeah, I could listen to it. I just think it's sort of AC/DC-ish or something, or
right. It's kind of generic.
But like the Apparition, I like it, but it's like so bad it's good. I'll be honest.
Right. I know you always got a kick out of the trying to fit the lyrics extrasensory perception into the timing.
I just can't imagine.
Sound kind of weird.
It'd be great to be a fly on the wall just to see like what their discussions on that part were. Bruce Dickinson and Steve Harris. It's like Steve Harris would be telling Bruce Dickinson, you can saying it this way. He's like, oh, I'm trying. It's like perception.
Like how many takes before he finally got it right?
Oh yeah. Well, what was interesting during the Fear of the Dark period is that they brought back the stage show, but they didn't, they didn't put on the spandex again, of course, but they brought back the big stage show, and the production was a little bit more slick too. So I think that they had produced No Prayer for the Dying in literally a mobile unit. I think it was the Rolling Stones mobile unit. So it's basically like an RV that they used. Or it's actually a barn, well, partly in a barn. That was the Fear of the Dark. They did it in a barn. So there was quite a difference. But I think, to me, No Prayer for the Dying just has this kind of kick-ass like immediacy to it. So that's why I like it more now. But of course, back then I listened to Fear of the Dark all the time.
Yeah. And I did have the VHS tape of that tour that you're talking about, the Raising Hell thing where they had the illusionist guy on stage with them.
Oh yeah, Simon Drake. Yeah, I saw that.
Yes.
It was cool.
Looked like a great show.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think at the time, the time was weird for Maiden. It was a weird time. They still had pretty good shows, pretty big shows in Europe, but it was definitely the fortunes were dwindling at the time, unfortunately. Some would say fortunately. Back then, people said fortunately, but now everybody loves Iron Maiden. It's kind of become kind of a franchise like that went way beyond like anything I expected to happen. Like I never thought that it would be as big as it is now.
Oh yeah, and I back in the 90s too. I'm actually kind of proud in retrospect that I never like brushed them aside, even during that time.
I would say,
what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I sort of, I don't think I ever really did, but maybe I was more in the closet about it for a while because it was not cool. Going to the alternative school I went to, that was. Being a metalhead was kind of verboten for a while. It was like you weren't cool if you liked metal. You should like rave music or Rage Against the Machine, pretty much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was weird. Like I said, I don't know if I got a lot of crap. I did get a little bit of crap for it, but I think most of the time the response I got was like dismissive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it was a weird time for music. That's goes into kind of just a lot of things that were happening. Like 94, 95 was, to me, those were like the worst years for metal. I know Rob Halford didn't say metal was dead until 97 or 98, but by then I think it was on the upswing again. Ironically enough, and that's why he came back the next year.
It's like, yeah, we're out the other end of the tunnel by that point, or we're over the hump.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
So next, I guess we go to the controversial years, the Blaze years.
The dreaded X Factor, yeah.
Yeah, so when that came out, I bought it pretty much right away. I don't know what the impetus for that was, but I decided just to buy it right away. It might have been the first one I bought like soon as it came out. I think we were hanging out too by then. I think we weren't hanging out for a while. So that was kind of an influence, and that being around more people that knew who Maiden were and stuff. So I bought that right away. I remember the day I bought it, even, I think. I listened to it, and I guess at first, like, I thought that it was a lot different than the previous albums, but I did really like it for some reason too. And I didn't want to admit it at the time. I kind of had a little bit of a sort of guilty pleasure thing at the time for it, or I'd say, oh yeah, it's Iron Maiden, they're doing this and this and this, and I told people that, but I really did like it. I listened to it all the time. So how is that a guilty pleasure? I don't know. What were your thoughts at the time?
Well, I also got that like right when it came out. And, I think you knew too, that Bruce wasn't in the band. I mean, we knew what we were getting into. But I was there the day it came out or the day after, and I picked it up and took it home. And just a couple minutes into Sign of the Cross, I'm like, I really like this. it is different. By the end of the album, again, this was an album that was really long, like 70 some minutes, but I could tell it was Iron Maiden, but it was very different. You know, they had their signature sound just enough that I knew who it was, but it sounded like Iron Maiden from a parallel universe or something.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
the songs are slower. I agree. They all kind of start the same, and I had no problem with Blaze's voice. In fact, I was kind of surprised by it because I thought if they were going to replace Bruce, the replacement would sound like him.
Well, actually, a couple of people like Michael Kiske, Halloween was in the running too for a while, but they decided on Blaze. I think the reason was because I think it's like Steve Harris related to his background, like, you know, growing up, like, because in England, like the class thing, it sounds weird, but like the class thing's really important in England. Like if you're like I think he kind of wanted to go against Dickinson's, like he was a public school guy or whatever. And he was like, you know,
kind of the rich kid. He's kind of the rich kid who was who joined the group.
Exactly. So he wanted to go out of, or he wanted. Oh wow, it says remaining time. Whatever. I will keep going. So the I'll edit that out too. So yeah, I mean, I think that was part of it. I think like he wanted someone he could relate to more because he just was so pissed off at Dickinson. And then they toured with Wolfsbane, I think in 91 or 92. And at that time, I think Blaze's voice was like he could do a lot of high stuff too. I don't know if you've ever heard like the song Manhunt by Wolfsbane.
Wolfsbane? Nope. I have heard them, but I don't think I've heard that particular.
Like he hit some high notes in that, like you wouldn't expect. And it sounded like he could do the job. He has kind of a David Lee. Yeah, in that band, he's like a David Lee Roth, like maybe with a touch of Danzig or something like vibe. Believe it or not, but it's an interesting band. But they toured with them, so I think that he did look a little like Bruce Dickinson too. Let's not deny that. Like back then, he did.
Yeah.
But so I don't know if that was.
I mean, I don't blame people that don't like it because it is a different sound. I mean, it's a lot gloomier. It's long, it's gloomy. I guess I can see that, but I mean, I don't know. People, when they get down on it, they really get down on it, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's some vocals that could be a little less. I mean, there are some flat parts of vocals, but I'll tell you, like, even like on Live After Death, there's parts of the vocals of Bruce that are kind of a little off, you know, I'll just say that. But it's like, I really like it. I've liked it since it, you know, came out. I never veered away from liking it. In fact, I liked it more and more as I listened to it back then.
Yeah, I go to it a lot now. And I agree that, even though I like all the songs on it, I think it could have been shorter because it's a lot to take, and it's a lot of gloominess, maybe one too many war songs. You know what I mean? It's just after a while. I'm assuming if you don't like the album, by the time you get to like that, in the mud and rain, you're probably just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like it. But
and it was a really good show. We saw that live too. So
yeah, and some people would say we weren't lucky, but I think we were lucky to see them during that time period in a smaller venue, not like a real small venue, but smaller for Iron Maiden.
Oh,
it was just a great show, and yeah, he had the curse of having to do the Dickinson songs. One or two of them he did okay because it didn't, he could do it in his range, but I could see him kind of struggling with some of it.
Yeah, I think the Trooper, I don't know if it was the Trooper or one of those songs, like one of the encore songs, I think he struggled with quite a bit. Overall, I didn't even notice at the time for some reason, though. I don't know what was happening. But listening to like the bootleg, which is out there, like I can hear it now, but like at the show at the time, I didn't really notice it that much. But another album that I bought. I guess we could go over X Factor a little more if you wanted to, but any final thoughts about that period of time, or?
I guess nothing that I hadn't already mentioned is just, it's just so weird that even now, if you see something like posted on Facebook, mentioning Blaze or Iron Maiden, you always get those people in the comments, oh, that just sucked. I mean, even though it's getting sort of reappraised almost in a Halloween 3-ish kind of way, you still get a lot of, that just write that off. I mean, it's just terrible. And it may not be everyone's cup of tea, of course. I know it's different enough that I can understand someone not liking it, but it's just pretty cruel. I listen to it a lot, I listen to all of them a lot, but I listened to that one and just did almost as equally as the previous ones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't listen to it as much as lately I've been listening to a lot. Number of the Beast for some reason, even though that was one that I was never my favorite of the first 6 or 7 or first 7, but now I'm just like I love Gangland, but that would be a different episode to talk about all that. But I really love Gangland. I thought about bringing it into my band cover too. I mean, I really like it. I think it would be cool to do something a little different like that, especially with those drums.
I remember one time we were talking about, wouldn't it be funny if Iron Maiden did a tour of like all the songs everyone hated, like that's all they played.
Oh yeah.
Like during the show, like Gangland and Quest for Fire, and The Assassin.
It'd be great. I love all those 3 songs are great. I mean,
I like them. Yep.
The lyrical content of Quest for Fire is really silly, but other than that, it's great. Assassin's great. Like I said, like No Prayer is, I mean, it's become one of my favorites, honestly. But yeah, I like all that stuff. But so yeah, they toured with Blaze, and they played a lot with like Fear Factory and bands like that, which is the times were kind of going that route. And then lo and behold, and I think it was 98, right? Yeah, I'm trying to remember when that Virtual 11 came.
11? Yeah, I think that was 98.
And the cover, I saw the cover and I was like, yeah, it's a little. I mean, even though the X Factor cover is pretty weird, but I thought it was pretty cool, like a real live Eddie, like autopsy kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the alien autopsies, I don't know if this was related to that, but like the alien autopsy stuff was really popular around that time. Do you remember? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but like autopsy.
Even the sleeve for X Factor was very 90s-ish. Just the pictures and the artwork, the way the band looked in those pictures, it was very of that time for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I liked the X Factor. I guess it's gonna run out of time soon, but I'll probably try to. I'll try, or I'll call back. I don't know if it's gonna. Well, I don't know if I can. I'll cut this out too. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably will upgrade to get the limit to be, so there's no limit, because that's probably a good idea. I was using Skype before, and I think that's what happened. Like I thought there was no limit with Zoom, but I guess there is. But the audio quality on Zoom is far superior to Skype, that I noticed. So,
oh, that's good.
Yeah. So
really clear. Yeah, I think Virtual 11 is also one that I got like right away.
Oh yeah, me too.
If I recall.
It was the day that it came out, I bought it. That was the first one. I think X Factor was like the 3rd or 4th day I bought it, but I think Virtual 11 I bought right when it came out, like the day it came out.
Yeah. And I got to say, Virtual 11 is the first one I ever listened to where I was kind of like, I don't know. That's the first time.
Yeah, I bought it when it came out. I don't know if I think I really liked it at first. First listen, I didn't like it as much as the X Factor, but I did like it. I thought I had a little more it was a little bit brighter than the X Factor, a little more variance to it in certain ways. But now, as of now, I understand why people don't like it as much.
Yeah, it's the one that whenever there's somebody on YouTube ranking the top Iron Maiden albums of all time, worst to best, it's always dead last.
Yeah. Though it was kind of brave for them just to continue with their style, to a certain extent. I mean, that's the thing about it. It's like at the time, by then, I was back fully into metal because I had a little period of time, mid-90s, where I was kind of like, oh yeah, went to raves and, was into I would still like a lot of that stuff, but I just like, I was denying the metal for a while, as that guy that interviewed Mattowarrior said that one time, denying the metal. So,
yeah, it was, again, that was the first one I got where I was a little unsure when I first listened to it. And again, it wasn't that I didn't like it. Over the years, it's really grown on me. But again, yeah, they probably got so much shit for X Factor. And I like that they just basically said, well, the hell with you. We're making another album with Blaze, And it is shorter. It's considerably shorter. And yeah, like you said, there's more kind of variance to it.
Yeah, there's even like a polka kind of beat in it. I forgot what song that was. But
yeah.
Educated Fool, maybe? Yeah, it was Educated Fool.
Yes, that one. And, that one, I think a lot of the crap comes down from the Angel and Gambler song.
Yeah, and there is an edited version, which is actually,
it's really good. Like the one they used for the video.
Yeah.
Had the perfect, they didn't overstay their welcome with that line.
Don't you think I'm a stranger?
Yeah, they only say it like 2 times. There was one time where I actually sat and I counted every single time he did that. I don't remember the number now, but it's just insane, and I don't understand why they thought that would be okay. The Afraid to Shoot Strangers repeating over and over somehow didn't bother me. It worked. Even later on, the Your Time Will Come, the Wicker Man chorus, but that Don't You Think I'm a Savior thing is just, I don't know, 8 times too many.
Yeah, it definitely just goes a little too far. I think one of the things that I noticed about that song is I'm not a big fan of horn sounds. I mean, I could handle them now more than I did back then, but like I was just like, yeah, this is a weird song. And it reminds me of like the Who, or like who else did it remind me of? Like they're trying to do this, like, I don't know, like this Who kind of thing with horns. Like, I don't know.
I never really thought of that. I know what you're talking about, but I guess I never really thought about that horn type sound. I think it's actually a pretty cool song. Otherwise, if they'd just made a few trims.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the problems with even modern Iron Maiden is that I think Steve calls all the shots. Steve Harris. In the 80s, they had a producer that would tell them, no, that's not right. That's not good. There's too many yes men. And I'm not trying to denigrate Iron Maiden. I like a lot of their modern albums, but I think that was the period of time where that started. If I ever interview Iron Maiden, hopefully I won't hear this part. But it's like, I think what happens to a lot of bands that are older, like, or getting older like that, like by the 90s, as they're just like a corporation. They call the shots. It's like Glenn Danzig. Ooh, this is controversial. I don't care. Whatever. But it's like, once he produced his own albums, he like calls all the shots. Or Yngwie Malmsteen is like, oh, I can do everything. I can mix everything. I believe there's like a video compilation or a video, like a live video that like
Steve Harris just did all the editing for it, or half the editing or something. No say, and people complained about like the shots and stuff. And it's like by that time, when people just like don't have someone to say no, sometimes it's like, oh, I'll write a song with 50 choruses repeating over and over again, or one chorus repeating 50 times. So.
Right. They're such legendary by that time that who's going to say, hey, Steve, you probably shouldn't do this. You want to think twice about it. I mean, I don't think anyone's saying that.
No, definitely not.
Just kind of like, a little off topic, but on the same order, like when George Lucas decided to do the prequel trilogy. I mean, nobody's telling him not to do anything. You know what I mean? He's just running the show.
Yeah, exactly. And you need that feedback, I think, in a creative expression a lot of the time. That certainly helps. Even if it's someone's wife or something saying something. I think George Lucas's wife edit Star Wars or something, or someone did. Like someone else edited it, and they saw the rough cut or the rough cut before wasn't as well. Like people said it wasn't that great, but like someone else edited it and made it like what it was or something. I was watching some documentary months back about this. But yeah, someone else needs to, at least like take a look at something and critique it in some way. So I think that happened with Iron Maiden, though. And the once they lost Martin Birch as a producer, which was after Fear of the Dark, that's when that started to happen even more.
Yeah. So. But even like the Klansman has made its way, they do that song. I'm glad they at least do something from Virtual 11 when they tour.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll take Virtual 11 any day over the Ripper Owens Maiden or Judas Priest stuff.
Yeah. I think for me, the years have been pretty kind to Virtual 11. I actually really like it a lot now. I don't listen to it as much as the X Factor, but it's very much a Maiden album with some stipulations, but it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they do repeat that crime of the repeated lines on a couple of the songs in there. They do. It's kind of annoying, but don't look in the eyes of a stranger. And, it's a great song if they would just trim a little of that.
Oh yeah, certainly. I think the album had a lot of potential. And I do like it. I like X Factor more, obviously, but like I do like it. I think honestly, a couple of their more recent albums probably rank lower for me, believe it or not. But it's Virtual 11 sort of in the middle of that. Like it's definitely not in the high ranking, but it's not like the lowest ranking for me. And it never really was, because I think at the time I was really excited that Iron Maiden was still doing music, and like it just maybe clouded my. Maybe gave me a little bit of a bias, but I was just like super excited. And it was kind of a cool time in life too. And I remember that spring, I had a lot of fun that spring and stuff. So it kind of gives me a little nostalgic feeling listening to that. But I think what happened with that album, I think they could have replaced a couple of songs with some of like some of the songs that were like B-sides on X Factor, like I Live My Way. I don't know if you've heard of these songs or not, but
I haven't heard that, believe it or not.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 songs that were like not included with X Factor. I think they could have like revamped those and put those in place of some of the cut Angel and Gambler, obviously, and then put like I Live My Way or Virus is okay.
I remember
Virus is pretty good.
Yep, I do remember Virus.
Yeah, it's a cool song. And then there's Justice of the Peace, and then there's these were all recorded for X Factor, but they never went on the album. Justice of the Peace, and there was one other one, I can't remember the name, it's escaping me, but they're actually, take a listen to them, they're actually pretty good. I in a way, they're like, they could have fit on Virtual 11 and like I actually made like a mix CDR with like, I think I got the shorter Angel of the Gambler on there, and then I put those songs, and then I tried to do like this edited version of Virtual 11 years back, like 3 years ago, and it was pretty cool. So.
Now, the only Maiden album I didn't buy was that Ed Hunter thing, which is pretty expensive if you look for it online now. I even bought the two live ones, the real live one and a real dead one.
Yeah, real live one is okay. I think live at Donington is actually a better performance. But yeah,
actually, I had that too.
I think that's better as far as the performance goes. But I bought those when it came out. I had that shirt, that real live one shirt.
Yeah,
I cannot find, or I lost it a long time ago. It's worth a lot of money. But I have like a different version of it that's not as good. It's not as, the graphic is a lot smaller and stuff. But if I could find that shirt, I'll definitely rebuy that. I really like that shirt with the Eddie playing bass. So.
Oh yeah, that one was pretty cool. I think that was also the cover of the VHS tape for the Simon Drake show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. Around that time, I worked with a guy who had a Virtual 11 T-shirt, and I thought it was the coolest thing. But good luck trying to find one of those for like. You have to take out a loan to buy it if you find one.
Yeah, they're going for a lot of higher prices. I mean, it's surprising. Like, I think I do own a shirt that's probably several $100, a clairvoyant one that I have that I bought.
Oh yeah.
Strangely enough, when I was working downtown at Walgreens in the late 90s, this guy was wearing it, and I was like, I'm gonna buy. I want that shirt. And he's like, I'll sell it to you, $20, and then he washed it, and I gave him the $20. And I own that shirt. It's in my closet right now. There's like a little tiny poked hole in it from something, but that's about it. That's otherwise it's pretty flawless. So, and I rarely wear it at all anymore. So I don't think I wore it that many times. But yeah, it's a pretty cool. I mean, they reissued it, I think, several times, but it's the original version. So.
So how is the Ed Hunter album? Is that just like a compilation, from what I understand, sort of a half-ass greatest hits sort of thing?
Yeah, there's just like a version of Wrathchild where they re-record Bruce's vocals over Wrathchild, of the original Wrathchild, which sounds a little weird, but that's the only new, quote unquote, new song. I think there's a couple new solos in there too, but it's the video game, which I thought was pretty mediocre for an Iron Maiden video game for what I envisioned Iron Maiden to do, because I don't know if it was a dream or just like a daydream that I had when I was a kid, that Iron Maiden would come out with this like Nintendo like Life Force or like Gradius kind of video game. Mm-hmm. And it would have like, they would record the soundtrack and be like somewhere in time, but like even more like synths and stuff on it. Like, and this is like this fantasy that I had as a kid, like, because I just always thought there was like this atmospheric thing to that would fit well, in that kind of situation.
And so when they finally do come out with one, it's a huge letdown.
I mean, it was like
considering what you were hoping it would be.
Yeah, have you ever played it?
I've never played that. I played that one they've done like in more recent years. The one you can get like on your mobile.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's
sort of like an RPG-ish kind of game.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's better.
It's all right.
Yeah,
but that Ed Hunter is like a first-person shooter type thing, isn't it?
Not even that. It's like Duck Hunt, or what is that other game? Gunsmoke. Yeah, this is how shitty it was, because you played. And you just had these eddies that came out on the screen and you just shot. It's like Duck Hunt or Guns. I think it was Gunsmoke. Was that one of them that was like that? It was like it's not even a first person shooter, because a first person shooter is like, Doom or Wolfenstein or something like that, right?
Right. It was, yeah, like Duck Hunt, or the other one with like Hogan's Alley.
Yeah, this is the type of game. This is the game that it was. Actually, Duck Hunt has more fluid. I think Duck Hunt has more going on than Ed Hunter, if I remember correctly. I'm serious. Like it was a huge letdown. I mean, unfortunately, it was kind of sad. I mean, the technology wasn't great. I know with Virtual 11, I think they were planning on doing a video game in that era because of all the digital stuff they were doing for the videos and stuff. And I think they were trying to do it back then. And I think they had better ideas, because if you look at like the Angel Gambler video, like a lot of the CGI stuff, I think they were trying to do that for like the video game, but somehow they did I don't know whose idea it was to do Ed Hunter, the video game. It's very disappointing. So.
I'll probably have to go on YouTube and check out some gameplay. I'm sure there's somebody doing a run through of Ed Hunter.
I should watch. Yeah, I'll watch that immediately, probably after this, because maybe I just have like a jaded point of view about it. But I remember it sucking, just really badly. I was just like, they could have done so much more, just with a different studio, video game studio or whatever. It's just like, but yeah. So as far as what would you say your favorite 90s Iron Maiden album is?
Ooh, I guess at the end of the day, I would say it's probably Fear of the Dark.
Yeah, I would have to say mine is No Prayer for the Dying, probably followed by X Factor, and then maybe under that would be Fear of the Dark, and then Virtual 11. That's probably my top, those are four, how the order would go.
Yeah, that's a tough call. I mean, I guess I'd say Fear of the Dark, X Factor, No Prayer, Virtual 11, but I like all of them. And, over the years, I've grown to like No Prayer a little more than I did when I was a teenager. In fact, the song Run Silent, Run Deep, is probably one of them. It would go on a playlist. You know what I'm saying? It's like one of my favorites of their songs, period.
Oh, yeah. I remember the moment that I really got into that album. I think it was like 90, I don't know if it was 95 or 96. Somehow I just I started listening to it. It was like this fall day, and I listened to it. I think, it was when Independence Day came out, because I don't know why I remember this, but I was listening to that album. Maybe that was the summer. I don't know. Well, my family went to see Independence Day. That day it was like the period of time that I was listening to a lot of No Prayer for the Dying for some reason. So that's what I really got into, is like mid 90s. I think I was out of the Maiden thing for a couple of years. I was listening to them, of course. And then this guy in high school is like, "Oh, have you heard Fear of the Dark? They have a love song on it and stuff." And they never did that before, this kid. But
yeah.
And I do like Fear of the Dark. I think so. Another thing that happened with Maiden is they had a really a huge lyrical shift at the time too. At least in the early 90s, where they talked about current topics and stuff like that. I mean, that was a really interesting period for that.
Yeah, they were never really a band with what I would call a message. I would guess, some of their war songs kind of, without being preachy, just kind of show, well, war is pretty crappy.
Yeah.
But something like Holy Smoke, when I first heard it, I'm like, this is pretty different than what I'm used to.
Yeah, it's weird, because I think that was a period of time where a lot of bands were doing that kind of thing. I don't know if it was just the zeitgeist of the period, but 2 Minutes to Midnight, if you read between the lines, it's kind of a political song. But No Prayer for the Dying, they started writing about more stuff like that. And then Fear of the Dark was really where they really got really topical. And I don't know, I don't know
what fear is the key.
Yeah, and songs like, Afraid to Shoot Strangers. It's just a lot of songs about, or Childhood's End, all that stuff. And I guess X Factor had a little bit of that too, like Blood on the World's Hands. It's just weird. It's just an interesting thing to think about, because I think that was very 90s, for better or worse, when bands started doing that. Even some hair metal bands are like, "Oh, we got this song about children starving in some country, and it's a ballad." Well, it's kind of.
But I suppose also on the other end of that, a song like "Hooks in You," everybody kind of looks down their nose at that, or like "Bring Your Daughter." They had these songs like that were almost sort of juvenile, like by Iron Maiden standards. That was it was kind of dumbed down in a certain way, but I still like those.
I like Hooks in You. I think it was kind of trying to do Because I think what happened with Adrian Smith, he wrote Hooks and You pretty much, and Bruce obviously wrote Bring Your Daughter. They were kind of doing the like late 80s like sleaze hair metal kind of topics kind of. They were kind of going towards that. But I think Hooks and You is loosely affiliated with the Charlotte the Harlot thing too, because he mentions Charlotte.
Yeah, that's what I always thought. Like it's sort of part of her saga.
Yeah, exactly.
It's I don't know what like she's getting into like some weird like bondagey stuff or I don't know. Like Hellraiser kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, they have the hooks thing, where you're hanging upside down.
Yeah, like Dee Snider in Strangeland or something like that. Like she has this customer who's into like some really crazy shit or something.
Right. So
and I always thought that was interesting how they had these 4 songs about this like prostitute lady,
Apparently she was a real woman, and they even went to, I saw not really a documentary, I guess I wouldn't call it that, but like a video where they went to the flat that she supposedly was at and stuff. On YouTube somewhere, and it was pretty interesting hearing the story about that, because I guess it was like these former members in the 70s from Iron Maiden that were talking about that, and they went to, like, filmed where the flat was or something. It's not 22 Acacia Avenue, because I guess Acacia Avenue is like a very common British street, so they just wanted to make it sound kind of funny or whatever in their own way. So, but like Charlotte the Harlot, which may have not been written by any of the members that were even in Iron Maiden at the time, it's like very disputed with some of the songwriting credits, like on those early albums. 22 Acacia Avenue, Hooks in You, and From Here to Eternity, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Which is, that's another kind of like AC/DC-ish kind of song, sort of. It sounds like Iron Maiden too, but like, they're kind of I think they were trying to do a lot of different stuff, but I mean,
that's about as close as they got to kind of like a pop rock song.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that song. I think it's funny.
I do too. It almost sounds like somehow like she got out of the business and finally found somebody, but they end up dying.
Yeah, something like that. Or it's the devil that takes her to hell or something like that.
Yeah.
And whatever interpretation you have, but yeah, it's funny looking at those albums. But yeah, I mean, I think, but that is one of the biggest changes, like the way they dressed. Obviously, it was different. They, some of the topics changed. I think it was very much a 90s thing. I don't know what they were influenced by to do that, but it's not like they went totally sold out to something, at least. But
no, and some people say, oh, because of the 90s, the whole grunge influence is why the X Factor, but it's like it isn't though. They were one of the few groups that didn't really succumb to that. They always stayed, even though they did change their sound for the X Factor for sure. They never abandoned like the metal thing and went in the grunge direction.
No, well, the X Factor was written basically. Steve Harris was going through a divorce actually at the time, so I think that really influenced him too. And he probably heard some of the gothic metal coming out and stuff, a little bit. I'm sure he did, but it still sounds like Iron Maiden. There's no like musical parts that are really that different, which for better or worse, with Iron Maiden, because what you're gonna get something that sounds like Iron Maiden. Unlike Judas Priest trying to sound like Machine Head or whatever, you know what I mean? So.
Right. That's what I was saying. It's unmistakably Maiden when you listen to it, even though it is very different at the same time. So yeah, they've always kept a core sound, always.
Yeah, and it's admirable because they never tuned lower either, except for like some drop D stuff that they did later on. But you can't really tell actually, like on some of those songs. But yeah, they never tuned lower. Bruce Dickinson definitely tuned lower on like Chemical Wedding and Accident of Birth. I guess we could go over those too. Like, what are your thoughts on those two albums?
I actually got Accident of Birth first. That did come out first, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I liked it. I didn't listen to it a lot, but I did like it. I liked Chemical Wedding more.
Oh, interesting.
And actually, I loved Balls to Picasso that came out in '94.
Yeah, a lot of people do not like that album. I think it's pretty good too.
I can see. I mean, I wouldn't expect. I mean, it is a solo album, so I'm sure a lot of people were angry that it doesn't sound like Iron Maiden. Well, there's really no reason it should, other than having the vocalist. But it was a solo thing. I can tell it's an album from the '90s. Just musically, it does have that going on. But
right.
I really like that one, and the Skunkworks one. I bought it. And I listened to it like twice, and then I never listened to it again. Maybe I'm being unfair to it. I should probably listen to it again after all this time.
It's actually not that bad. I listened to it a couple of years ago. Maybe it was like longer than that, but it has almost like a dreamy kind of feel to it. It's a little. I mean, it is definitely grunge influenced, but like it's like it has kind of a cool. I mean, the subject matter, the lyrics and stuff, and just like the vibe. I quite liked it actually when I listened to it. I was surprised by it, even though obviously that was the time where everybody wanted to say they were no longer a metal musician, you know, or they never were. Like Lars, you know, Lars was like, oh, we play hard rock, you know. That was a terrible time. Oh my God, I talk about it all the time. I know, but I don't care. I think it's entertaining. I don't know what you think about that, talking about that a lot, but I like talking about that period of time.
Oh yeah, it's a fascinating period of time. I mean, I look back on it now kind of warmly because it was high school time. So many cool things happened. But at the time, it was frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
While it was happening, it was frustrating. But, yeah, now that it's all said and done, it's easier to look back on it and just think, well, in the end, metal won.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, so.
Definitely did.
What is the stuff that's legacy is continuing, you know?
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, yeah, Pearl Jam still tour, but you don't, you know, it's just metal bands from the 80s still tour, you know. They were kind of knocked down, but you couldn't keep them down.
They really couldn't. I mean, that's really definitely something that couldn't happen. I'm pretty, yeah, I mean, it was a frustrating time for sure. But, yeah, especially when bands denied they were metal, you know, like Metallica or whoever.
Yeah, and Maiden never did that.
They never did.
Nope.
I was even watching this like Megadeth interview, and he's like, everybody has short, except for Dave Mustaine, everybody has short hair, and they're like dressed like sort of preppy, like Dave Ellefson. Like what? Like this bright, like I don't know, it was like Abercrombie and Fitch or something. I'm just like, okay, this is like '97 or something. I'm like, okay, this is definitely like done on purpose. Like these guys are doing this. I think it's somewhat calculated. Maybe they're trying to fit in, whatever. But it was kind of annoying. Like if you dress like that, that's fine. Like if you normally dress like that, but doing it like because it's not cool anymore to wear what you're wearing, to me, that's, you know, pretty fake.
Oh, exactly. But we were fortunate that we had like Iron Maiden was still during that time doing that, even though, you know, everybody kind of bitches about, you know, the Blaze era, but they were still doing their thing. And then of course a few like Merciful Fate had like Time and In the Shadows. There were still groups doing, you know, their thing, and it was great that we had that.
It was, and I mean, we had Pantera and White Zombie and all that, but like that was the United States, of course. But you know, in Europe, there was so much stuff coming out, you know, and elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing with Merciful Fate, Merciful Fate was probably the band that got me back into metal in like '97, because like, you know, I was kind of not buying metal albums, and I was kind of like scared of King Diamond, I guess. I was like, but I don't know if I think you were the one that was playing for me, and I bought the album in high school, and then, you know, I was kind of like superstitious or something for a while. I was kind of, I don't know if I was like I don't think I was a fundamentalist Christian, but like I was kind of going that way. So I threw away Melissa at one point.
Oh.
It was pretty silly what I did. And then I was like, I don't know, it was like a moment came like in 96, 97. I was like, why did I do that? So like late 96, I think I started buying, I know this is off subject, but whatever, it's cool. I started buying like Merciful Fate and King Diamond albums, and then Manowar. Wait, not Manowar. That was a little later. I think you had played me some Manowar. I think I heard Triumph of Steel, and I didn't like it that much. I heard it on like one of those, like, what do they call those satellite things or whatever you used to get? Like you can, like,
Oh yeah.
I didn't like it, but then I got into Bathory, you know, because I got into black metal, and I was like, I wasn't scared of like satanic metal anymore, whatever. But, like, so, and then I heard the Viking stuff, and I was like, oh shit, I should get into Manowar, and because you played me In the Glory Ride, and I was like, and that kind of just was like the end of my unmetal time, which is, I had some Jinkos and stuff, so.
And they're another one that, you know, just kind of went through the 90s without, you know, it really hurting them.
Oh, Manowar? Yeah.
Yeah, I bought my introduction to them. I bought Triumph of Steel from Best Buy, which is kind of weird that in the mid 90s they'd be selling Manowar albums.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Louder Than Hell was an interesting. Yeah, I mean they kind of just were like, they knew that the metal thing was kind of under attack, I guess you would say. I mean, I don't know if it was under attack, but the thing is that at that point in time, if you were into metal, it wasn't that you were like, it wasn't only that you were uncool. It seemed like you just like were committing some kind of crime. Like some of the way that some kids acted like about metal is, I'm just saying, like you were just like a degenerate basically. Like if you liked metal.
Yeah, and you were also refusing to transfer over to what the big thing was at that time.
Right.
And, you know, it's like, why can't the two exist? And that's what I did, you know. I mean, I bought the, you know, the Alice in Chains and the Stone Temple Pilots. But, again, like if Testament put out a new one, well, shit, there's no reason I'm not going to get that.
Yeah, there's no reason for that to coexist. I think younger people now, I've noticed, if they are into metal, or if they're into stuff, if they're into music more than like casual person, I should say, they usually like give credit to metal. Like back, like it's surprising, like younger people, like 10, 15 years younger than us, even like millennials and Generation Z, like they like metal. Like my nephew is like huge Metallica fan, but he's like old Metallica, and he likes Iron Maiden stuff too. But he plays in like an indie band, and he's like, oh, I love metal. It's like, I mean, it used to be if you had to like the style of music you liked, and you couldn't, deviate from that. But like metal is cool. Like even 10 years ago, I was dating this girl, and she was like a millennial or whatever, but she was like into ska and stuff, but she was like, oh, and playing like Bark at the Moon was on her iTunes or whatever. I was over at a house. It's like it seems like younger people are way into like I think our generation, whatever, Xennial or X or whatever. I think there's a certain portion of that metal kind of skipped a lot of the people that were born in our segment. Like it didn't skip, but like it was uncool to a lot of people our age during that time, at least. Yeah,
a lot of people jumped ship.
Yeah, and there's no reason to, I mean, I jumped ship a little bit. I listened to, some gothic rock and stuff because, people who I was hanging out with and stuff. Like even
you
like
jumped ship just to, not because you didn't like it, just because you were pursuing, you were checking out other things.
Well,
I think even during that period, I don't think you were like, this metal thing is just uncool anymore. I don't think you really ever had that attitude about it.
Not really, but I think also it was where I was going to school too.
Yeah.
At least the way I dress, because I would have worn more metal shirts back then if I was kind of like trying to avoid wearing metal shirts because I don't know. It's just it's so dumb to think about now that I actually did that. Like just the stuff you do, just the dumb stuff. But it was verboten to like metal at that time, publicly. I guess it's like something you had to keep really close. but like by 97, I was over it. Of course, I'm out of high school, but like, it was like, that was like the renaissance for me, was that period of time. Because I know you had like some Century Media sampler too, and was kind of like, our friend John had like, he like had Mortician and stuff, and like he was talking about Emperor and all this stuff, and there was like a confluence of events that happened. It was like, I bought Amorphous' Tales from the Thousand Lakes, Anathema's Eternity, and the Reverence EP by Emperor in like February of 1997. That was like the time, that was like my renaissance of metal.
Yeah, I guess that kind of went to show you that it's still there. It's just now you got to dig a little bit. And we didn't really have the internet, so it's like these groups that you never heard of. And yeah, and eventually you find out it's like, wow, there's all this other stuff, and it's from other countries too, so it was kind of hard to get a hold of.
Oh yeah, just spending like $30 on a Blind Guardian CD that came in the mail, a couple days later or whatever.
Yeah,
all the times. There was a mystique about that era, though. I think is lost now. It was kind of fun, going to like Razor Room or Earwax, places that are gone now, unfortunately. But
yeah, and like you said, you got a Blind Guardian album, whereas they were probably big in Europe that time. In America, you could probably count how many people had one, on both your hands. But so when you had it, and when I heard it, I think you made a cassette tape based off the CD. I almost felt like I had something kind of exclusive.
Oh, absolutely! It was a lot of fun. It was fun. That period of time was fun.
Conjure them up on YouTube.
Yeah, that was a period of time. Like the band Opeth didn't have any pictures released of their band. Oh, I think they played live, but you couldn't find pictures of the guys in Opeth until like a year or two later. Like they had already had 2 albums out. I think that's what I read. And it's like they were trying to do like the Corthon thing where at least the first few albums, there were only like a couple of pictures of him, like in the pentagram, with the pentagram and the blood or whatever. And then he kind of did some interviews for like Blood, Fire, Death or Hammerheart. I think it was Hammerheart. But I guess we're gonna wrap it up now. But
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, talking about Iron Maiden and.
Yeah, they're always fun. Like I said, I like talking about them because they were really, I guess I heard Metallica first, but, Iron Maiden were really the gateway, and I love them, and I stand up for the 4 90s albums that everyone hates.
Yeah, I do too. I think there's a lot of material there. I think I value those albums more than some of their newer ones, and to be quite honest, even though it kind of set the precedent for some of their later stuff too, but I'll stand up for all 4 of them against at least a couple of their newer albums to some extent. I just think it just sounded fresher, that sound. That's just my opinion about their later stuff. I do like a lot of their later stuff too, but yeah, those 4 albums are underrated and hated by some, but whatever. That's cool. That's their thing.
Yeah. But they were rebellious, I think, during that time period.
Oh, absolutely.
For better or worse.
They were. No one else was committing that much. Even Motorhead, they had Sacrifice, where they tuned down a little bit and they were a little faster. Maiden never did anything like that. They stuck to their guns extremely. So. But yeah, I guess I have a minute to go. So,
all right. Well, it's been good talking to you about it.
Oh yeah, anytime. If you want, I might have a lot more stuff to talk about. So it's a good episode. So,
all right, sounds good.
All right, well, I'll talk to you later then.
All right, talk to you later.
See ya. Bye.